Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name is Amanda. Thank you so much for tuning in. All of the products that will be used in today's video will be conveniently linked for you in the description box below. No need to go searching for these items, just click on the link and make your purchase. Now let's get started. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be working with this UV DTF wrap, and I am going to be showing you how to take an old tumbler and reuse it, or take a tumbler that has vinyl on it and salvage it for something different. So, I'm a very sentimental person, especially when it comes to my family. This is a cup that I've had, obviously, I mean, you can tell it's just been through it. And I made this cup back when 3 of our children, well, our 3 boys, were playing baseball, and so I just put their initials inside the baseball there so that no matter which one was playing, I could support them. So, with that being said, I've had this for a long time. I mean, we have grown children now. One just recently got married. And so, as bad as I hate to, I think it's time to do away with this design. So, it makes me super sad. I've held on to it for you know, like I said, all these years, even though our boys are not playing baseball any longer. But it was just sitting in our cabinet, and so I decided I needed to utilize it. So, what I'm going to show you today is how to remove, well, how to easily remove the vinyl that's on your cup. If you're like me and you have an old cup that needs updating or whatever, I'm going to show you how to easily remove the vinyl. So there's only a couple things you're going to need to do this. And that is a pair of tweezers and a heat gun. Okay, so sorry I had to change my battery. Also, you will need a UV DTF wrap, and obviously you can see this is not going to fit all the way around our cup and look right. But I'm going to show you how we can fix that. So let's go ahead and get started. But first, let me also mention, on UV DTF wraps, they do not have to be sealed. So this could easily be an epoxy-free project. If you're not into epoxy and you still want to customize a cup, the UV DTF wraps are the way to go. And I will link where I got this, where I purchased this from. I'll link that in the description box for you. But let's go ahead and get started. So, the first thing you want to do, you will want to get a pair of heat-resistant gloves. I forgot to mention that. If you do not have any, I would suggest getting some type of work gloves and layering a couple of pair if you have to, because these tumblers can get quite warm when heated up with a heat gun, obviously. So you will want to get a pair of these gloves. And, you know, it's ironic because to put pressure sensitive vinyl on a tumbler, you don't need heat. However, if you heat it up just a little bit, it helps the vinyl to really adhere. So ironically, that same process of using the heat gun will help it to release as well. So that's why I have said in the past, if you are heating up your vinyl, make sure you don't overheat it, because that will have an adverse effect. Now this piece is ready to come off, so I'm going to go ahead and peel that off. But, you know, vinyl over time can get brittle. And so if we were to just sit here and try to peel all this up with our fingernails, that's just going to take forever. So I'm just going to take an alcohol wipe and sort of wipe down the area, and then we're going to take the heat gun and heat it up. So let me talk a few minutes about the UV DTFs. So if you are not familiar with these, they come with this back piece of paper, and then this is actually a top piece that peels away after you put it on your cup. Now earlier I stated that I was going to put the wrap on the top and decorate and epoxy the bottom. However, after I washed my cup, I did decide to go ahead and sand it, and I'm actually going to glitter the entire cup first and then place the UV DTF wrap. Now, again, UV DTF wraps do not have to be sealed. In other words, you do not have to put epoxy on top of them. But because I decided to glitter my cup first, I'll probably decorate the bottom and epoxy that, and then use the UV DTF wrap, and I probably will not epoxy on top of this. So, but I just wanted to say, you know, this plastic sheet right here, that's going to come off and it will leave the designs. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I am going to mix up my epoxy. I'm going to put my glitter in the epoxy, and we're going to coat this tumbler with glitter and epoxy. And in case you were wondering, this is a 30-ounce Maverick tumbler. I have no idea where I purchased this from. As I mentioned, I have had this cup for many, many years. So let's get started. Okay, before I get my mask on, we are going to mix diamonds and fairy dust together. Diamonds is my favorite white glitter, but I do love this fairy dust. It has a really pretty holographic shine to it, and this one's from the Glitter Grind, which I love, and MAKERFLO Crafts makes this one, and I love their glitters as well. These are my two all-time favorite glitter companies, the Glitter Grind and MAKERFLO Crafts. So we're going to mix those up, and then I will put them in the epoxy. Today we're going to be using a little extra ink epoxy. This will be my first time working with this epoxy, so I will let you guys know how I like it, how it turns out. I do like to find a product and stick with it, so to speak. But I also have heard great things about this epoxy, and I wanted to give it a try for myself. So while I am mixing this up, I have already explained we're going to put some glitter in with our epoxy. I'm also going to add just a little bit of white pigment paste, and we're going to put that on our tumbler. So in the beginning of this video, as you could probably tell, I was talking as I was doing my work. Now, I normally like to do voiceovers versus actually explaining the process while I'm working. And the reason for that is because I tend to change my mind. As in this case, I changed my mind. So I initially thought I wanted to put the UV DTF wrap on the top of the tumbler. It winds up that I do put it on the bottom of the tumbler. So, but you know, this is inspiration. Whatever you want to do is perfectly fine. You do not have to do exactly as I do. Again, this is just inspiration for you, a creator, a maker, an artist, you know, whatever. This is inspiration. So do it how you want to, but I just wanted to clarify that I do change it up a little bit. And I'm going to slow this down for just a second so you can see the epoxy with the pigment paste and the glitter. It is still going to be slightly translucent. And that is okay, because what I have in mind for this tumbler, as I mentioned, I did change my mind on what I wanted to do. So at this point, what I have in mind, it's okay if you can see a little bit of the sanding marks beneath the epoxy and the glitter. But just keep in mind, if you are not going to do the next step as I do, then you will want a full coverage of either paint or opaque coloring, such as pigment powder, pigment paste, something like that. I did not film the epoxy application process just because I normally do not show that step. If you would like a video on just how to apply your epoxy to a tumbler shaped like this, then let me know and I'll be glad to put one out for you. But we are finished with this first layer of epoxy, and I'm just going around the rim of my tumbler with my craft knife and removing any stray epoxy that may have leaked onto the rim. And then we are going to slightly sand it to just expose a small bit of stainless steel for our final coats of epoxy to adhere to. Now, I will say this epoxy is a slightly thinner viscosity than what I'm used to using. I'm not sure exactly how much I mixed up. I forgot to mention that. Um, but it was slightly thinner viscosity than what I'm used to. And I'll be honest, I really liked it. It went on super smooth. I did not have to sand my cup not one time during this process other than the rim. And so, I mean, I really like this epoxy. There weren't any micro bubbles once it had hardened and cured. I did not see any lingering micro bubbles. So I really like this epoxy. I will put a link in the description box of where you can purchase some of this epoxy. And so I think I'm going to start using this for all of my tumblers because the shine is so beautiful. And I believe this is made in the USA. So anyway, just a great, great product. And now for this next step, we are going to be using some alcohol inks. I'm just going to mix them up in a little measuring cup, and I'm going to take a makeup sponge, dab the alcohol ink on my makeup sponge, and just sort of go around the tumbler and make random marks with the makeup sponge. What I'm trying to emulate is, like, I know when our boys played baseball and they would bring their uniforms home, there would be like dirt and mud spots on the pants, but they weren't like perfectly circular in shape. They had like striations to them and um, different, it wasn't just like a perfect circular brown dust or mud spot. So I'm just going to go around the tumbler, and I actually wound up sort of getting a little crazy with it. I covered more of the tumbler than I wanted to. However, when the tumbler was finished, I really loved how it turned out. So do as much or as little as you'd like. This is why I stated earlier that for me and what I was going to be doing with the tumbler, it did not matter if you could see some of the tumbler underneath my epoxy. If you are not wanting to do this step, then as I mentioned before, you will want to have a fully painted tumbler or add, mica powder or pigment paste to your epoxy so that it completely covers where you have sanded and or completely covers the tumbler to match whatever theme you want to go with. So but for this step, we're just going to be dabbing this makeup sponge in various places of the tumbler, and then we will let this dry overnight. And the reason is because when you're working with alcohol ink, and as soon as you finish applying your alcohol ink, if you go in with your epoxy right away, it is going to make the alcohol ink run. And for this particular design, I do not want the alcohol ink to run. So we're going to let this dry overnight. And then once it has dried, we're going to go in with another coat of epoxy. Okay, so our alcohol ink dried overnight. I did apply 30 milliliters of epoxy to the tumbler and let that cure overnight. And now we are ready for our next step. And for this step, I'm going to be using 311 Co vinyl. You will find the link in the description box, as well as a link for 10% off of your purchase. Or if you don't want to click on the link, you can just type in Amanda Foster for your 10% coupon code. Now, I just put my vinyl in scrapbooks, and this is the vinyl we're going to be using today. And I'm just going to cut these baseball stitches in strips and wrap it around the tumbler. Once that has been placed on the tumbler, I did go ahead and seal this with Crystal Lacs Grand Finale. And then I went right in with another coat of epoxy once the Grand Finale had dried. Okay, so now we have our third and what is going to be our final coat of epoxy for this tumbler. And we are ready to work with our UV DTF. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you wanted to just paint your tumbler and place the UV DTF on your tumbler, you totally could, and it would be epoxy free, quick and easy. That's why I love these UV DTFs, because you don't have to put them on the size cup that they are made for. You can cut them and apply them however you'd like. And that's what we're going to do today for this tumbler. So just sit back, relax, watch this final part of the video, and I will be back once this step is complete. Thank you for watching today's video. If you are not a subscriber, but you are tuning in to watch my videos, please be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications so you do not miss any of the videos that I upload. I truly hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it has inspired you to upgrade some of your older tumblers and make them new and fresh again. I hope you have learned how to utilize UV DTF wraps and how to remove pressure sensitive vinyl. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those for me. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Again, please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And to everyone who is a subscriber, thank you so much. It truly means so much to me. Also, I now have an online store, so I will have that linked in the description box below as well. If you would like to check out any of my products, I do add new products periodically, so be sure to come back from time to time and check that out. And as always, I hope everyone has a blessed day.